Recording in progress.
I'll call this council meeting to order. I'd like to welcome everybody this evening. It's a beautiful night for a drive. It's nice to have it brighter later in the evening, isn't it? It really is. I'll ask for disclosures of pecuniary interest to declare. Thank you, Councillor Dirksen. Can you?
I have one, Mr. Mayor. Item 9B11, operating and capital budget adoption, the 2023 compensation for public works, winter control portion only.
Okay, thank you. Any others? Hearing none. Moved by Councillor Dirksen, seconded by Councillor Elliott, that the minutes of the town of Minto, January 17th, 2023, February 21st, 2023 budget meetings, and the March 7th, 2023 regular council meetings be approved. All in favor of that motion? That's carried. Thank you. Moved by Councillor Zimmerman, seconded by Councillor Gunson, that the town of Minto Council convenes into committee of whole. All in favor of that motion? That's carried. Thank you. We have no public meetings tonight, but we do have a delegation. We're moving very quickly. So this evening, we have Jeff Hoffman and Jessica Martin representing Grove, Guelph, Wellington. They have an annual report from our Grove. So I would ask you to speak into the microphone, introduce yourself, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor Turton. Many of you know me. I am Jess Martin, and I am the site lead for the Grove in Palmerston, and then I'll let my colleague Jeff introduce himself as well.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jeff Hoffman. I'm the Chief Development Officer here at the Grove.
Awesome. We can go to the next slide. So we just wanted to really come tonight and to give a little bit of an update about the Youth Hub and what we're seeing and the incredible impact it is making in the community. So the slide you'll see here is just kind of an overview of what the Hub is. I live and breathe it every day and I love it, and it's just a great spot for our youth to come, and it's a safe space. There are challenges we are presented every day, much like everybody else's roles in their careers, and we face them with a smile, and we make shifts as we need to. So in this space is a one-stop shop for our youth to really access those services they need, including the drop-in component. That's as simple as coming in and grabbing a snack, or as charging your phone and not talking to any of us in there. It's a, hey, how are you? And they go and sit in their space. There's also mental health support. So we have a lovely youth wellness team that offers a variety of services for our youth. We have housing support with our partners. We have education support, employment, substance use support, primary care, training, and a array of other community services that come in. And then on top of all that is our programming, which is our skills and well-being stream as well, which is a really big draw for our young people as well in our community. Jeff, this one you?
Yes, yeah. So our focus at the Grove is on intervention and prevention. And I think the key piece that I hope that everybody takes away from our presentation today, I hope that you're all really proud of as well, because I know we are, is this community has having a real impact on youth in your community. Every single day, including today, we had 60 young people in the Hub in Palmerston. Right? 60 young people that are there because of the efforts of many of you around this council table, many in your community who stepped up and wanted this service, this support to be here in Minto, available for youth in Minto. And it's working, and it's working every day. Intervention prevention is where we come in the model around youth care. We are an official Youth Wellness Hubs Ontario site. This is an initiative that's supported by the province of Ontario to make it easier for youth and families to access services and access care. Focus on intervention and prevention, and it works like this. Youth can come to the Hub for any reason. They come just to hang out, and most youth do. Just come as a safe place to spend some time. Charge their cell phone, grab a snack. They might come take part in some of the recreation activities that are at the hub. Maybe they'll play some pool, play some foosball, play some video games. Or perhaps they're there for some of the programs that are being offered at the hub. Maybe it's an art class, art lessons, music programming taking place at the hub. Or they can get some help with school. Tutors on site, some help finding a job, help with housing, help with financial assistance. And then while they're there, youth have access to our amazing clinical team that works right here locally in Minto. Mental health supports around substance use, eating disorders. All these with no wait lists. You can walk into the hub today and see somebody today. If youth need help, they can find it at the Grove. Next slide, please. So right now we have 4 sites fully open, 3 in Wellington County, 1 in Guelph. By the end of this year, we'll have 3 more sites opened up in Guelph. So there'll be a total of 7 Grove sites across Wellington County and Guelph. Our teams across all of our sites work together. All of our sites operate in a similar fashion. The hours may differ slightly, but to cater to the local youth needs, but the programs and services offered are the same across all sites. You can come and drop in and hang out. You can get support around mental health. You can get support around substance use, primary care, education, etc. All available across all the Grove sites. And clinically, they're all connected. So allowing youth to connect to services at any of the Grove sites as well, without having to tell their story a second time. I'm going to turn back to Jess to walk us through the youth wellness team.
So Jeff kind of spoke to this as we refer to our clinical team as our youth wellness team. The reason being is we align ourselves with Youth Wellness Hubs Ontario, which is a provincial model that we have adopted and we are part of. If you go to the next slide, this will kind of outline what makes up our youth wellness team. And it is an eclectic group of professionals providing a variety of services and supports to youth. So I'm super excited to share that we have hired a nurse practitioner as a part of our team to really be able to offer that primary care piece. She has joined the team. She will be in the hub in Palmerston physically once a month with virtual options throughout the week as well, just given what we could offer. But that is always a service that we have available for our youth in the spaces. We also have a mental health clinician who is on site 1 day a week to offer drop-in and scheduled appointments for our young people for anything mental health. She will address those mild to moderate youth and then refer out if there's more supports that are needed. But regardless, that youth does not have to wait. That can be the same day appointment and they can move forward with their wellness journey. We also have a youth outreach worker on site 5 days a week. And these individuals are out in the drop-in on the floor, interacting with youth, talking with them during drop-in, and supporting them with an array of skill sets that they have. They do a lot of system navigation, and they support in that. And then throughout the team, there's also youth wellness coordinators. So they do a lot of the intake support and site coordination. And then we have youth concurrent workers who come and support the county as well. And those youth concurrent workers are individuals who support the substance use and mental health components. So when an individual is experiencing both, they're able to specialize and support in that as well. So what we're seeing across the sites, it's no secret. We are seeing so many youth come through our doors, over 22,000 youth visits in 2022. So just let that sink in, and that's across all of our sites. We are seeing the youth are identifying this as a space. We've had multiple times where a youth is like, I didn't know where to go, so I came here. Okay, what does that mean? What are you wanting? What are you looking for? If we can't find it within the hub, we look to our partners. And that's proven to be a really, really incredible pathway for our young people. April 1st, 2022 to February of 2023 is 25,762 youth visits. So that's an incredible amount of youth that we are impacting day in and day out, whether they're coming in to drop in and hang with friends, whether they're coming in and they're struggling academically to get to class. We're having those conversations. Okay, we're struggling. How do we get you back there? We're providing that wraparound support, and then those include also our youth wellness team captures as well as individuals who are getting support from our teams. So this is it's hard to see, but it is kind of a capture of where we're seeing all these numbers. So we're seeing it categorizes it to where we're seeing that. You'll see the drop-in component is a huge component for us. And I want to really talk about the drop-in component. The drop-in is so crucial to our model because that is the way we build rapport and trust with our youth who then streamline into our clinical services. They then build that rapport with our youth outreach worker and say, you know what, I'm having a really hard day. And they've talked to them. They've played a video game with them once, and all of a sudden now it's like, struggling with anxiety, I have a test coming up. That individual can then, what we call is streamline into service. They can then seamlessly go into service and get the supports they need right on the spot. So that's what we're seeing with the drop-in, and that goes with all the other programs that we offer within this sites as well. The next slide you'll see is going to be what we're seeing in Palmerston. So I said 22,000 youth visits, over 22,000 youth visits in 2022. If you want to look at the bottom there of total youth visits, we almost account for half of that out of all of our sites right now. And the big thing we hear is there was nothing to do. We didn't have anywhere to go. And these youth are using the space. So it's really appreciative from our end of the support we've had from our community and council to make this a reality. This was something that was brought to us 4 years, 5 years ago, and it is a reality now, and we're impacting many youth. And this is impacting youth from the age of 12 to 26. So the impact is there, and we're really seeing it, and it's incredible to see our young people thriving. And if they're struggling to thrive, how can we help them get to that point where they want to be? And what are your goals, and how do we get you there? Next slide, please. So Jeff talked to this a little bit, and tracking our results and putting us on one database to really emphasize, you don't have to tell your story twice. I walk into one hub in Palmerston, all of a sudden my family decides to move to Guelph. I can walk into there and say, hey, I went to Palmerston. Is this the same kind of Grove? They'll be like, yep. Can I get your name? Let's pull up your file and see where you left off. This has happened multiple times already with our other partner services through CMHA with Here 24/7. If there is a crisis call come in, we can then pull that file. That individual, that service coordinator from Here 24/7 can reach out to our team and say, hey, I see you've worked with this client. This happened over the weekend. Can you touch base on Monday and see how we can do a wraparound? So that's what is really that integrated system that's really working. So we have two kind of different databases that we use, one of which is My Wellness Passport, and that is where we go through our intake process with our youth and capture our youth visits, and that's used at a WIHU level, which is Youth Wellness Hubs Ontario. And then CaseWorks is through the Canadian Mental Health Association of Waterloo Wellington, and that's the database that we're able to then integrate ourselves with the other resources that CMHA Waterloo Wellington offers, including their eating disorder programs, their crisis line through Here 24/7, children's services, adult services, because we're in that age, that transitional age where you hit 18, you fall off the edge of the cliff, and all of a sudden navigating the adult system is so difficult. I have a Bachelor of Social Work degree, and I still struggle to navigate the mental health system for the adults. So our young people who are 18 and are expected to adult is what they normally tell me. I have to adult soon. It's hard. The navigation piece is hard. So we're there to bridge that gap and to make that a little bit more seamless for them. And I'm going to pass it back over to Jeff.
One of the ways that we connect with youth is by hiring youth. When you come into the Grove, you're often greeted by young people. We call them youth ambassadors. Kate and Mackenzie are youth ambassadors here in Palmerston. If you haven't met them before, they are awesome, awesome young people. Do just an amazing job of connecting with youth and relating with youth, right? And youth want to talk to other youth. The first person you see when you come into the hub, they're often the person who's going to engage with you while you're in the hub. If you're new to the space, you can tell when somebody's new for the first time. Come that slow walk in, look around, trying to get sense of the space, and then they're greeted by this sort of like outgoing, connected young person who wants to help them. You know, they're the one that might play a video game with you, might play pool with you. They're definitely going to be a part of the music program or an art class, right? And they're often the one, because of relationships they build and through the training they receive as youth ambassadors, who are able to facilitate that connection from drop-in and the rec and skill and development programs we offer to the clinical side, where they can listen for cues from young people and help to make that connection to service and help that young person navigate it just a little bit to start to get the help that they need. It's a real important part of the model, and that peer support and that peer connection is one of the things that really youth tell us often is one of their favorite things about coming into the Grove. Next slide, please. So to connect to services, it works in lots of different ways. Sometimes it's quite simply just a youth walking in and saying, "Hey, I could need some help today." I was at the hub in Palmerston just the other week, and a young man came in. It was about 3:30 in the afternoon. He was with his backpack on from school, and he's like, "Can anybody help with my math homework, please? I need some help with math." And of course, we got a tutor on site. So Tara's like, "Yep, for sure. Let's go work on math tonight with you," right? So that's one way it works, right? A young person comes and identifies, "I need help with something. Can I get some help with that?" Right? Sometimes it's through the connections they make, like I just mentioned, with our team to move into service. And sometimes it's and we hear this a lot. I hear this a lot from parents when I'm talking to the community about the Grove. It's like somebody will inevitably approach us and say, the young person in my life is struggling. I don't know what to do. I don't know where to start. I don't know what it is. I don't know how to help them. And fortunately, a place like the Grove is a really simple solution for them. For the mom or the dad or their child or the young adult we're working with, all you need to do is come into the Grove. You can call us, you can email us, you can text us, or you can just walk in. You'll see somebody today. We'll help you get started today, right? And that's and I think when I talk to parents, it's a big weight off their shoulders as they start to figure out how they can move forward. As I mentioned earlier, there are no wait lists. They will talk to somebody today if they need to talk to somebody today. Next slide, please. We provide all these services for youth in lots of different ways, and one of the ways we do it is through our community and social support service pathways and our partnerships. There's some really great examples of this here, and the Youth Wellness Hubs model builds on the connections and the services already available in the community. I think this is one of the things I really loved about this model is we weren't just about bringing in all these new services, and so many of them exist. We're trying to make them easier to access. So for example, if you're a young person who needs help finding a job, we've got partnerships with Agilic, Second Chance Employment. Come out here to Palmerston, meet with youth here, and help them find a job, help them with resume writing, help them with interview skills, right? You need help around housing? Partnerships with Wyndham House. Again, they will come. They're in here in Palmerston, at the hub in Palmerston, meeting with youth again, in the community where they live, where they go to school, right? Talked about tutoring. Tutoring is a big part of what we do. We have lots of young people going through our tutoring program, available again here locally in Minto for young people. So partnerships, we have over 40 different partnerships with agencies across Wellington County and Guelph. It's one of the ways we were able to extend the sort of the reach of the services we offer young people. And I'm going to flip it back to Jessica to walk us through a little bit around how it works around skills and well-being and a couple stories from youth here.
So this is what we refer to as our programming, as our skills and well-being stream, which is a huge component of the Grove. This is an opportunity for youth to build those skills while not really thinking they're building those skills. It's the fun, it's the cooking, it's the sweet, I'm gonna make cookies, but did you know the measuring and everything that you're doing is a big skill that you're building. So this is a fantastic opportunity for our youth to engage and to connect. And there is skills and well-being programs that are scheduled, and then there's skills and well-being programs that just happen. All of a sudden we realize like, oh, we got a good group of youth in here. There's Todd over there saying he's hungry, Belinda's hungry. Let's do a pancake random night. Sorry, I called on you too, but we're gonna do, all of a sudden we're gonna make pancakes. So then we grab our griddle out, we move it out there. The youth help us measure, the youth help us put everything together, mix, and then cook that. And it's a simple skill for them to take home. It sounds so little and simple, but it's so big, and it's such a big component of the Grove and locally in Palmerston. And we have great partners who support. We have a fantastic skills and well-being coordinator. Her name is Sarah. She comes to the Grove once a week to do certain things. And then, like Jeff said, our fantastic YAs who are Caden and Mackenzie will do those spontaneous supports. A skills and well-being thing that we had last week at March break was we actually welcomed 40 of our littles from Minto Day Camp to come and visit the Grove. We shut down the Grove for our normal ages, and they came in and they did a variety of different programming within the Grove. And that's just a part of the programming and the skills and well-being, and how there's so many facets to it, right? So how you can really build that. In the side there, you'll see like there's the literacy component, the numeracy component, and the skill building. And those are all different examples of what we do to kind of touch on those skill building pieces. The next two slides are some direct quotes, and I won't read them, but I encourage you if you can. These are direct quotes from individuals who have used our spaces. And I'm going to share a little bit of an impact story about our drop-in and how it has worked. One, to get individuals into the clinical stream. Two, to just help a youth make connections. So a youth walked in at the start of the school year last year and came and had indicated, my aunt told me to come here. I just moved here from Hamilton and I don't have any friends. I said, well, welcome. Okay, our youth ambassadors can give you a tour. The youth continue to come back, very shy, reserved in their space. That youth all of a sudden became connected with a group of youth who would play a really loud and rambunctious game at lunch. And I was so impressed to see this individual jiving and really connecting with some young people in this space. That youth then came in another night before they caught their bus and said, I have not picked up a controller to a video game since I was estranged from my brother 4 years ago. And it was just as little as a video game that created that connection and that place of sense of belonging. And that's just the drop-in component. That was no services, that was no direct contact with any of our clinical team. That was just the drop-in component of creating this warm and welcoming space. And on the other side of things, there's so many stories with our clinical team. We had an individual who was struggling with housing as a young individual. They had a variety of different levels of needing of support, and some of which we couldn't do internally. We then connected with Wyndham House. We then connected with primary care. We connected with OW, and we connected with our CMHA team to wrap around this individual. This individual is still popping by the Grove and saying, thank you so much. I am thriving. I have a job. I am working towards a great career path for myself. I've done X, Y, and Z. So those are just things that really resonate with me as how it can be as simple as picking up a controller as a video game to feel connected, or it can be that in-depth clinical experience, both of which has impacted their overall wellness and their journey to success in their future. So it's pretty cool, and you'll see on those drop-in program kind of quotes. Similarly, those are two other quotes that we've got directly from some friends who visit us right in Palmerston as well. So, Jeff, I think I'm going to pass this back over to you.
Tutoring is incredibly busy at the hubs for a number of reasons. Lots of young people are struggling with school right now, right? They're behind. The pandemic has left a number of young people struggling academically, right? The province recognized this, the school board recognized this, and they had some funding which they were able to allocate to the Grove as part of our tutoring programs. Because of that, we were able to access it and provide youth with tutoring options across across all of our sites, including here in Palmerston. We had about between September and February, almost 363 youth took part in those tutoring sessions across the Grove site. So a real busy part of what we do on a regular basis at the Grove. Next slide, please. Transportation to and from the Grove, and that's a real conversation for rural communities for sure, right? Here in Palmerston and across Minto, we use Ridewell to support us from a transportation perspective. We're always looking at ways to find new ways to get youth to and from the hubs. One of the pieces too that, and Jess can speak to this really clearly, is our programming is quite busy during the school day for sure, right? With the high school being right there, and so the site in Palmerston really ramps up their programming efforts during the lunchtime and right after school when youth are out of school and before they have to hop on that bus to head home. But youth who do need transportation to and from the hub, Ridewell is a program that a service we offer that's paid for by the Grove through fundraising that we've done as well. And next slide, please. The Grove is a space that is really important that youth feel connected, that youth feel safe in, that youth feel welcome in. It's a big part of equity, diversity, and inclusion. Is a big part of the Youth Wellness Hubs model. It's a big part of who we are at the Grove. When we first started this back in 2021, we had a young person we hired, a youth, who put together a committee of community members to help us develop an action plan and a framework around equity, diversity, inclusion, Indigenous reconciliation. This young person made this 40-page awesome report, and we did not want it to sit on the shelf somewhere, right? It was really well done. And so we took that report, we hired another young person to come in and help us put together an implementation plan for that report. That was in the fall of 2021. How do we actually implement the initiatives that this group had pulled together? And then throughout 2022, our team, again, of youth that we hired, worked together to implement EDIIR initiatives across all of our sites, ensure these are welcoming, inclusive spaces. And through 2023, as we move to our next fiscal year, we continue to invest in this. It's an important piece of who we are. Our equity, diversity, inclusion coordinators report to our board as well on a monthly basis. Have continued to move forward in this space here. It's a space that we continue to invest in as well, because it's an important part of who we are. Because, and we hear it a lot from youth who say, I feel like this is a space that I'm welcome in, right? When I walk in and I see the pride flag, I know it's a space that I can feel comfortable in, a space that I'm welcome in. That's the space that we're looking to set up, because that's how it works. Young people come into the Grove, come into the hub. That's when they can get the support that they need. It's a big part of our focus and will continue to be as we move into 2023. Can we move to the next slide, please? And of course, this takes fundraising dollars, right? So we continue to fundraise to make this happen here, right? We are an official Youth Wellness Hubs Ontario site. That happened in 2021. So big for us, because that provides some ongoing sustainable funding for the clinical side of what we do here. The province has invested in this through Youth Wellness Hubs Ontario, and they've invested in the Grove because of this year. We've got a $15 million capital fundraising campaign to open those sites, the remaining sites we have in Guelph. We've raised almost 12 million of that, so we're on our way. We're getting there. We have a few gifts to close over the next few months to finalize that. That's a big push for us here. This is where we've gotten to. This has been a collective effort. Many folks in this room have been a big part of that. Much of your community's been a big part of that. The community across Wellington County and in Guelph to make this happen for youth here, where we live and where we work. And this will continue to be a big focus for us as we will, it all does come down to dollars, right? To make this happen for young people. But we're getting close on our campaign goals as well here. And I think we got one more slide. Yeah. And the last thing I'll say is, we've got a number of partners who really make this happen here. Our backbone organization is the Canadian Mental Health Association of Waterloo Wellington. Human resources, finances, they support us immensely in that space there. That's where donations at Grove go. They go to the Canadian Mental Health Association, to the Grove Fund. That's how that works. We have a decision-making table, a partnership table, including a member here from Minto who sits on that table, supports around decision-making. And then our team, which is just two of us on the admin side, Cindy and I. You've probably met Cindy, our executive director, our clinical team, and our youth ambassadors that make this all happen for young people across all our communities and right here in Minto. So that's all for us tonight. We could talk forever about the Grove, and we probably have, but we really appreciate the opportunity to come and provide an update today, and we're happy to take any questions if there are any.
Yeah, go ahead. Questions? Councillor Elliott?
Yeah, I go past the Grove all the time, and they're busting down the door to get in. Like I saw 3 lined up. I don't know whether they got in or not. It looked like it was full. You've got a capacity amount that you can't allow in, I'm sure, and they wait for their turn to come in. The concern I would have is I'm sure with this many group that you're going to have some behavioral problems. So how do you intervene with that, or how do you go about dealing with that? I guess it'd be the level of, it could be a violent level or not, or non-violent, or just noise or problem. How do you intervene with that?
Sure. Through you, Mayor Tartan. Thanks for that question, because it is something inevitably that we see. And these are behaviors that we're seeing provincially. It's not just where we're at. The level of violence and aggression we're seeing from our young people is high across provincially, and this is coming from our Youth Wellness Hub partners. So it's something we're addressing with that level as well. But I can speak really closely to the Palmerston. We do see these sometimes when there is that that level of violence, or if there's an altercation. Our staff are well-trained in that crisis intervention. We are not a crisis center, but do we deal with these situations? 100%. So our staff are trained to be able to support and intervene in those moments, and we really lean on our community partners if there is a level of risk that we need to address, and that's a reach out to our local OPP. That's a reach out to who we need to ensure that the safety of not just the individuals who are involved in this, but as the Grove as a whole, our staff, our other youth. And sometimes the behaviors are, I just don't want to go to school, and they're rambunctious in the space. So we mitigate that on a day-to-day basis of really redirecting our youth to recognize that this is a space that we've created for youth, but we need to have a level of respect, and a level of respect for the space as a whole, but also the staff and the people in it. So it's a continuing conversation we have with our young people, and we really try to frame it in a way of skill building for them, because sometimes our youth who come in, and they may be coming in as a drop-in component, and we know their first name. That's what we know about them.
Right.
We don't know their family history. We don't know the level of trauma maybe they've endured. So we come at it at a very coachable way where we can try and build that skill, but there are times where we have to say this is not appropriate in the space, and we're going to have to ask you to leave for the day and try again tomorrow. And we don't like to get to that point, because we would rather them in the space with us than maybe out in the community if they're making some poor decisions. So that's something that we are constantly addressing, and we're evolving as a team of how we address these as these situations come. We're new, right? So we've been open for 1.5 years, and there has been multiple times as a team we take monthly meetings as a team in Palmerston to sit down, like, what are we seeing and how do we address this as a team? There's a little bit of a structure. So as the site lead, I do take on a lot of those responsibilities of chatting with our young people and asking them, like, what is a fair consequence for X, Y, and Z? Because this is what I'm seeing, and there hasn't been any behavior changes. So what is a fair consequence? It's putting it back in their court and saying, how do we address this? How do we work together that you are in the space and appreciating it and respecting it? So it's case basis, but we do see it, and we're consistently connecting as a team. I think that's the big thing I want to emphasize, is as a team, we have to be all aligned. And I think that the Grove in Palmerston and the Grove as a whole are doing really good things to kind of connect and make sure that we address these, because our young people are struggling.
Obviously, you're doing the right thing because people are lined up to go in. So when they must feel safe and comfortable in the place. So
And even if they're mad at us because we asked them to leave the day before, they come back. They
good.
come back and they smile and they say, "Hi, Jess." And I'm like, "Welcome back. Today's a new day. What are we going to do? We're going to try it again today." So I appreciate that question, because it is inevitably we're going to see those challenges that are presented. And we know our partners at the school are seeing those things as well. So it's constant collaboration to wrap around our young people, because if we just kind of shut the door and they're not allowed to come back, we're not doing a justice to what they need, right? So,
That's great. Thanks.
no problem.
Councillor Dirksen, did you have a question?
I had the same question.
Okay. Deputy Mayor Anderson.
Hi there. I have a couple of questions. So do you have linkages that improve access or ease access or the path of access to Cape and/or Homewood, seeing as how you have a range that's going to require both facilities? And secondly, how do you get around the HIPAA rules if you have, because we've been struggling for years to come up with a common database that we can share, and the HIPAA neatly nipped that in the bud when we had the technology to make it. So if they're not in my physical building, they're no longer in my center of care, and we can't share any information, as valuable as it would be to get feedback. So I'm curious how you manage that, and do you have a path to facilitate so they can avoid the whole emergency department under police guard thing?
Yep, and I appreciate that question, because it is something that we've had to address. There has been examples that I can speak to, Deputy Mayor Anderson, that we have an individual through CMHA Waterloo Wellington, because all of our clinical team is hired by CMHA Waterloo Wellington. So with that piece, CMHA Waterloo Wellington has that crisis worker who goes into CAPE and does those discharge planning. Because we are considered the circle of care with CMHA Waterloo Wellington, they are then able to include us in that discharge plan. We had an incident just actually happen similar to this within our Grove team. So that then breaks down that barrier. It's a simple Teams call from our crisis worker through CMHA to our youth outreach worker and says, hey, this individual is coming. I see they're connected to you. Can we connect to talk a little bit about it? And that's within our circle of care because we're all employed by CMHA Waterloo Wellington.
Okay.
So when Jeff speaks to our backbone agency, there are so many benefits and resources through CMHA with that. There are community partners that we have to get consent for, and that is done with the youth. So although Wyndham House Safe, for an example, is one of our partners, we still need to get consent. It is not implied consent. It is, we have to get consent from them to share that information. And the youth are always in the driver's seat of what and who we share with. So that consent piece is still, there's still some barriers, but there's a lot of benefit with our CMHA Waterloo Wellington being our backbone, which is CAPE and those kind of pieces as well. Does that answer that question?
Yep.
Okay.
So then if somebody's escalating or expressing thoughts of self-harm or harming somebody else, what is your procedure there? Your clinical worker can't put them on a form. They could recommend that they need a form or not.
Yep.
And then do you have a linkage with a physician that can access that? Do you have direct transport to CAPE rather than bringing them to non-Schedule 1 facilities where it's technically illegal to hold them, but it's what we do because we don't have any other option?
Yeah, no, we don't have that, which is something that we have to, like, that crisis piece is really hard. So it's a similar kind of trial and error of what we're doing. And it doesn't break down all of the barriers and all of the challenges we're seeing in our emergency departments. But we're trying to meet them when they're at that mild to moderate before they get to that point.
Sure, you
But-
guys would probably have insight that, because by the time, it's usually their parents that have called, and by then they're at the end of their rope. The
Yeah.
parents are the very last to know
Yeah.
if there's anything going on with these kids,
For
generally.
sure.
But it comes in, is there any thoughts of being able to connect with the impact team?
So
that
we are.
They could be called and come to intervene there to prevent,
Yeah, so there's been actually an integration with our impact team through our CMHA partnership. So that, like, I go back to it, the resources that provides us is incredible. And there still are times if there's a risk situation, then there is that crisis piece where we have to call someone. We have to, and we have to, if there's a risk component, we share that information without consent because there is that risk to themselves or others. So that's a process we're continuing to work through, but we do have a few stepping stones that we utilize, and I will happily say that we are meeting our youth predominantly in that mild to moderate before some, so here.
sure, you get to know them.
Yeah.
At the hub, having them drop by, they can, and you can usually, if you have consistent staff, they're gonna pick up that there's something going on.
Yeah.
It's just once they give voice to it, you don't have a lot of options.
Yeah.
You've got to do something
Yeah.
fairly quickly. And bringing them to emerge by police is the least
Yeah, and we-
friendly thing to do for these kids.
And that's not what we want to get to
No.
either. We want to support them. So it's case by case basis, and I know you will know that as well in the work you do. So, but there are systems in place that we that have proven to really be beneficial
Well,
for young
impact's
people.
very effective
Yes.
for the older population. It's getting in touch with the younger, but I'm thinking
Yes.
this would be a good
Yeah.
sort of connection there,
For
right?
sure.
Because they can't get to their family doctor in time
No.
to say, I'm having a bad day, I need help. They come to emerge, they're until they make a statement that says that there's harm. And non-Schedule 1 facilities in small rural areas are not the place to be holding mental health patients, and unfortunately, we do it far too often.
No, and we don't have the capacity in our healthcare centers, right? So that's where we're trying to bridge that gap, and we're trying to really to blend that so they don't get to that point.
Excellent, thank you.
No problem.
Other questions? It's been an extremely interesting 20 minutes. Normally a delegation is 10 minutes, but we kind of asked you guys to come, and we're absolutely happy that you are here and that you've went through this. I mean, you've given us a great explanation on what's offered at the hub. And I mean, just back a few years ago when you were in here for the first time, I mean, you were talking like you were 3 feet off the ground. And I mean, it was amazing to watch you and came a long ways, and we're so proud of you. We're so proud of the hub. We're glad to have it in our community, so all I can say is thank you very much.
Thanks.
Next is question period. And before we go any further, I would just like to point out that Mr. Ed Potnowitz is back, and I welcome him, and I apologize for not saying that sooner, Ed. Thank you for coming, and we've been thinking about you, so
Glad to
welcome
be
back.
here. Glad to be here.
That you are. Next item, recommendation is moved by Deputy Mayor Anderson, seconded by Councillor Dirksen, that the council receive the correspondence as information. Is there anything here that we would like to discuss, talk about? I have one item, if you don't mind, nomination for 2023 OSM Executive Committee. As you guys are well aware, Councillor Elliott has been on this committee for a number of years, and certainly this council thinks it's very worthwhile. And so I recommend that the council of the town of Minto supports the nomination of Councillor Ronald B. Elliott as a candidate to serve as a representative on the executive committee for Ontario Small Urban Municipalities. And I'm wondering if we could have a mover and a seconder for that. Thank you, Councillor Podnimitz. Thank you, Councillor Dirksen. Everybody understand exactly what this is about? This is just another Minto person serving on a board outside the town. And it's extremely important to this community, and we have had numerous people do this, and it always comes back in spades. So if everybody understands that question, the motion, I'm going to call the question. All in favor of that? That's carried. Thank you very much, Paul.
Sorry.
Okay.
Switch here.
Okay. The other three items, is there anything that wants to get what you want pulled out? Hearing none, I'm going to call the question then. All in favor of that motion? That's carried. Thank you very much, Ron, and thank you for letting your name stand for that committee.
Thank you for nominating me, and I sure appreciate it. It's a good position to be in. As a matter of fact, we're having a Zoom meeting because everybody's across Ontario. We can't meet all the time because we're having a Zoom meeting, and we're going to be talking about our conference coming up. We're also going to be talking about quickly, we're dealing with homelessness, and that's happening all across. Most of the communities that I'm dealing with are our size, probably a little larger, but they all have the same kind of problems we have. So, and
Perfect.
we have the opportunity then that we have some of our OSM members also become AMO members, so we can pass that through them, and we have direct access to the government. So,
Well, we wish you all the best. Good luck.
thanks.
Next item is committee minutes for approval, and we have none tonight. So we'll move right into the staff reports. It's our CBO, Terry Kuipers. We're going to talk about the CRIDAC development in Palmerston, a good news story. So,
Thank you and good evening, Mayor Turton and members of council. Town staff have been working with CRIDAC Developments Incorporated for the past year and a half on the development of a 6-acre site in our Palmerston Industrial Park that the town had sold to them. Certain components of that development have come in front of council previously. Site plan control is the last step that they need to complete prior to the issuance of building permits. Council will recall staff's presentation regarding the changes of Bill 109 to the site plan approval process. Through those changes, the authority to approve the site plan documents had to be delegated to staff, as well as the authority for staff and the mayor to enter into an agreement with an owner. Having said that, staff still feels that it's still important for council to be made aware officially of significant projects in our municipality. So that's why this report is being brought forward for your information. Site details. So the site is being developed as an industrial condominium project, which is the first in our industrial park. It does open up the ownership opportunity for persons or companies for smaller size units than what normally would be available within the industrial park because of our building covenants. So as you can see on the screen, there are 3 buildings being proposed on the site. The first one labeled Building 1 is a 2-story, 8-unit, 34,500 square foot medical professional building. Intended to be occupied by either medical professionals themselves or medically related services. Building number 2 is a single-story, 51,250 square foot building with 12 proposed offices on the top side of the picture there, and with 10 industrial workshop units on the back side of the building. And the third building that's being proposed is a 64,600 square foot warehouse type facility. So there's 4 individual units, 3 with exterior loading docks and 1 with an interior loading dock. As this development is different, being it's a condo opposed to a rental or solo ownership, the condo agreement itself will dictate what type of uses are permitted in different buildings or locations within the building. So this gives more future control of the direction of the occupied tenants. So in building number 1 being it's linked to either medical professionals or professional related services, the condo agreement will limit the ownership or tenancy to those specific uses. Whereas if it was a rental, it could be an office today and then a fabrication shop tomorrow. There's no continuity regardless of how the application was originally brought forward to staff and council. In order to change that for future needs, if something changes with the utilization of the site, it would require 75% of the condo board voting in agreement to change any provisions within the condo agreement itself. So it's a very tight legal binding document that is difficult to change. So the site plan documents have been reviewed and approved by staff. A site plan agreement has been drafted and should be entered into in the next couple of weeks. So the owners are excited about the project and want to get going soon. 70% or more now of the units itself have been pre-sold. So there is substantial uptake in the build or the site developments as a whole. As there has been lots of talk about the medical or healthcare needs in our local area, I have invited the owners to attend. They're attending via Zoom in case there's any questions from council on either the medical component or the development of the site in general. So if there are any questions, I'm willing to take them, or Shivani and Pankaj could answer if I cannot.
Thank you, Terry. Why don't we, you want to make the introductions first and then we'll proceed, Terry?
Sure. Are they? Oh, there we go. Sorry. So these are the owners of the development. So we've got Pankaj on the left and then Shivani is on the right of the screen there. Oh, sorry, and Sachin's there as well, the bottom right-hand corner. My apologies. So I believe you've probably heard my report to council. So I don't know if there's any questions that council wishes to direct or any other additional items you want to mention about the site development.
No, we are good. So we have sold 20 units out of 35 units. And in terms of investor versus end user, it's probably 60-40 split. We cannot be 100% sure as we don't know. It's just our guesswork. In terms of the medical units, all 7 units have been sold. Out of 7 units, 4 are exclusive, right? They got requested us. So we have given exclusivity to the naturopath, dentist, and RMT registered massage therapist. 4 units are still up there, which they will find a tenant, and then we'll give them exclusivity. We do have interest on medical unit quite a bit. to the point where we have to hold on to sell it further. And there was a request for chiropractor as well as physiotherapy, asking for a 1 unit with 2 practices. So we just put that on hold for some time. So that's where we are. And in terms of the medical unit, other units are sold to general people like HVAC, warehouses sold for the home builders, building supplying
Supplies,
materials,
yes,
and
yeah.
those kind of people.
Perfect. On behalf of the council, I'd like to welcome you folks tonight. This is our newest hybrid council meeting where we can Zoom in, bring people in that are from a distance, and
Yeah.
it has worked well for us and continues to. So welcome, and I'm going to open the floor for questions.
Thank you.
I have one that has to do with all the traffic that's going to be down Minto Road. I mean, when this building gets filled, I mean, we're percentages there now. So when some of the other industries come on site, that's going to be a busy little road.
It's definitely going to add traffic both to that road as well as the Main Street intersection. As part of the studies required for this development, a traffic impact study was required, and it did take into consideration other buildings under construction currently and previously approved prior to this one, and there was no upgrades required at the Main Street intersection. So we have looked into that.
That's perfect.
They can go into Timmy's, and get a
They could.
coffee on the way back,
Uh-huh.
or the way out. It's a great spot.
Any other questions for our delegation, if you will? It's wonderful again to have you folks here.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
We're excited. We are very excited about this. I mean, every time we talk about this good news story, it gets more exciting.
Yes,
It
we
really
are.
does. So I have one question other than, not a question, a statement, other than in discussion, when we talk about the site plan approval and you don't need us to help you with that, we appreciate you bringing it to us. We really do. You can't know that how much it means to us for you to bring the information, discuss it, because I know how timely it is. I know how busy you are in your department. So thank you for doing that, Terry.
Not a problem. I think it's, yeah, definitely important. I would hate to be in your shoes walking down the street and someone's asking you about a significant project on a property that you sold to them and not know what the heck's going on. So it's definitely necessary.
Go ahead, Councillor Potnowitz.
What's the anticipated time for the build out on this project?
I believe the intent, and maybe Shivani and Pankaj can add a little bit more detail. I believe the game plan is to start with building number 3 at the moment.
Yeah.
And I want to say it was a 2-year build out is what the anticipation was previously, but with the sales the way they are, that may be different.
So now we are looking for a 1 year to 15 months time frame to build all 3 buildings.
Yes.
Good. You're going to be busy, Terry.
No, Dave and Wes are going to be busy. This is kind of where I transition the project to them, so they're lucky. They're lucky. I push paper, they actually get to see the build.
It's kind of a tough situation you're in, being pushed to get started. Usually it's the other way around, but is there other questions? Is there anything that you folks want to talk about here, or are we?
Yeah, from CRIDAC, we would just like to add that Terry and Belinda, they have been the foundations for this project. They have helped us every step of the way, and we really wouldn't be here if it wasn't for these two. So all of us at CRIDAC really thank them, and most of the credit for this project goes to them.
I disagree. We're not the ones signing the big checks, so I'll leave that in your court.
That's one thing that those two folks do. They give their teams credit.
Yeah.
So, but that's very nice of you to say that.
Thank
So,
you.
thank you on behalf of Terry and Belinda. So, other questions? Hearing none. We have a, where are we here? We have a recommendation moved by Councillor Zimmerman, seconded by Councillor Elliott, that the Council of the Town of Minto receives report PLN 2023-015 for SPC 2022-02, the Cridac Developments, Inc., regarding the Palmerston Business Junction Site Plan Approval for information. And it's quite interesting, the name. For those of you that didn't pick up on that junction part of that name, has to do with the Palmerston Railroad, so.
Yes.
Any, no other questions for Terry or anybody? I'm going to call the question. All in favor of that motion? That's carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, folks.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a good
Next
evening.
item, we have Ashley to present. It has to do with the PLN 2023-016 Site Plan Control Bylaw Update. Exciting stuff.
Very exciting. Thank you, Mayor Turton. So town staff have been working to update our site plan control bylaw over the past few months. We originally did start this process in late 2021 as our existing bylaws from 2009. And as council is aware, the volume and types of development we're seeing in Minto now have changed substantially since then. However, during the update, the province made some pretty substantial changes to the site plan control process with Bill 109 and then subsequently with Bill 23. So we opted to pause our update until all the new regs were in effect and that we could include all the requirements and changes with the bylaw you have proposed before you today. So I did outline some of the key changes that were made in the report. One of them is mandatory pre-consultation. So this is one of the tools that municipalities have been given by the province to make pre-consultations mandatory, which must be done through the passing of a bylaw. So this is something that was formerly recommended but not mandatory. So that's the difference there. This tool will help the developer by clearly outlining what is required for the submission of a complete application, but it also helps protect the interests of the town with the new mandated timelines for approval and the required fee reimbursements if those timelines are not met. As previously brought before council, our Director of Building and Planning Services now has the delegated authority to approve site plans. We repealed that bylaw and we're going to put it into this one just for cohesiveness and so everything's in one place. And we have added some additional exemptions to the bylaw to further clarify it and to also bring it into compliance with Bill 23. Our director does maintain the power to require site plan control if needed for lot grading or drainage purposes or as required. And the other big change we have is included an expiry of the site plan approval. So essentially, as it stands right now, there is no time frame. So we're recommending a 12-month one. Basically, if the agreement's not signed within those 12 months, your approval is void. This is largely because legislation and development are very dynamic and changing, and we want to make it clear that, you know, something that's approved in 2023 isn't necessarily the same project that would be approved in 2026. So town staff are recommending that council receives this report for information and considers passing the associated bylaws. And I'm here if you have any questions.
Questions for Ashley? Go ahead, Councillor Potnowitz.
Yeah, just a question for Ashley here. Is there an expiry date or a termination date on the site plan itself as to when it has to be completed?
So it would be 12 months from Terry's giving of approval, essentially, is what we're proposing.
So once it's been approved and signed, there's 12 months they have to complete the site plan, correct?
Oh,
I was just going to say, essentially, you have 12 months to sign the agreement.
To sign it?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Once they've signed it, is there a time that they have to complete the site plan?
No.
Okay.
Most of the ones we're seeing right now are in the Palmerston Industrial Park, and we do have some that are not, but those are already like bound by the agreement of purchase and sale as well. So those give set timelines, but we just want to make it clear that the approval is up to date and relevant.
So there'll be a deposit requirement, right?
Yes, yeah.
So how do you judge when that deposit is returned if there's no date?
So in the agreement, there is no date. We do require the securities to be submitted at the time it's signed. So essentially, we would be hanging on to it until either they request us to rescind that agreement or void the agreement, or we would hold on to it forever, I guess, being there's no expiration there. Holding that security is definitely good pressure for them to get started. So there was just one project that council approved that the owner didn't agree to some of the terms within the agreement itself and refused to sign it. So we didn't want that project, lingering forever and then 20 years them sign it and be able to develop the way it was approved currently.
Other questions? Is the province finished changing the regs for a week, for two, for how long? Are they finished?
That's a good question. I think for the terms of the site plan control process, we're pretty comfortable bringing the bylaw before you now. There's still a lot up in the air about what attainable housing and affordable housing and all of that means, but for the site plan control, I think it's pretty spelt out now.
Thank you, thank you. Go ahead, Councillor
Further
Cotton.
question. You're talking about pre-consultations as well, right?
Yeah, so one of the things, or the reasons why we implemented the mandatory pre-consultation, as well as the process within the site plan control bylaw, so they're kind of linked together. One of the things you may recall with Bill 109 was the whole refunding of fees, where after, I believe, site plan approval was 120 days, we had to refund certain percentage of fees associated with that development. So that would be our site plan control application fee, as well as any other fees from government agencies that they were charged. So in our mandatory pre-consultation, essentially the pre-con runs the entire review time of what we used to do through the site plan approval process. And in the wording of it, we're only deeming it complete as soon as we're satisfied with the latest submitted documents, that all engineering comments and all that are to what we need. And then we deem it complete, and then it can be approved right away, just to avoid us having to refund fees.
I fully agree with the pre-consultation. I think it's a great idea. Is there a fee for the pre-con?
We don't take in a fee for the pre-con. We do take a deposit. I believe currently it's 10,000. And essentially the way that it works is it's a deposit that we hold. Any external invoices that come in, we direct bill the applicant. If they don't pay within 30 days, we use the deposit amount to cover that, or our essentially expenses, so our engineer or whoever. And then we don't continue on the pre-con until they top up their 10,000. At the same time, at the pre-con, we would also be taking in the site plan approval fee. So then right at the 11th hour, we're not asking them for, I think it's $5,000 more. So collect it up front and then deal with it down the road.
Thank you.
So we collect all the fees, we hold them until the project's approved and going forward, then we dispense them back.
So the way that it used to work is typically they would do like one pre-con meeting with us. So we would still collect that 10,000. After that, and they understand the criteria of their submission, then they would enter into the site plan approval process where we would collect another $10,000 security under that agreement plus the $5,000 admin fee. So instead, we're collecting it essentially all up front. We're not charging them the extra 10,000 security underneath the site plan approval. We're just going to transfer the pre-con amount over. I just didn't want to go down the road of the process of months of review back and forth and then suddenly, oh, you want to sign the agreement? I need a $5,000 admin fee now. So we figured that kind of process would be a little more seamless and kind of match in what we're currently doing now, only under different verbiage.
Other questions? Seeing none, the recommendation is moved by Councillor Gunson, seconded by Deputy Mayor Anderson, that the Council of the Town of Minto receives report PLN 2023-016, being a report regarding the amendment of the town site plan control bylaw and the implementation of a mandatory pre-consultation by law for information and considers passing the associated bylaws in open session. All in favor of that motion? That's carried. Thank you. I know you've been working on that for a while. We appreciate that. The next item then is Ashley again. It has to do with the Nelson property on Derby Street in Palmerston, so I'll ask you to go ahead. Ashley? Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. So this report is regarding a part lot control application for 528, 530, 532, and 534 Derby Street. So the property currently has an existing 4-unit street townhouse on it that was constructed in 2017. The purpose of this part lot control, you can be looked at as more administrative. It's to legally subdivide the townhome into 4 separate lots and to also provide easements so that the interior units retain legal access to their rear yards. So at the time the townhouse was developed, it was actually considered under the former bylaw as a 4-plex, and the building permit was issued as that. So the provisions of the 4-plex are met. Following council's passing of the part lot control exemption bylaw, it will be sent to the county for their director's sign off, who then sends it to the applicant's lawyer to register the parcels as separate. And I'm here if you have any questions.
Okay, we have a recommendation moved by Councillor Elliott, second by Councillor Dirksen, that the Council of the Town of Minto receives report PLN 2023-17 regarding the PLC 2023-02. Nelson for lands being part 1 to 4, 61R-21217, and part 1 to 5, 61R-22439, for lands being part lots 3 and 4, park lot subdivision of park lots 12, 13, and 14, north-south Prospect Street in the former town of Palmerston, town of Minto, county of Wellington, with the municipal address of 528, 530, 532, 534, Derby Street in the town of Minto, and consider passing the bylaw in open session. Questions? This is a, sorry?
Could you read that again?
It's a very straightforward one. It's the way it should be done, correct? Yes. All in favor of this motion? That's carried. Thank you very much, Ashley. Terry. Next one is Belinda. It has to do with the ECDEV 2023 signage and facade grant, MS Beauty. Go ahead, Belinda.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Turton, members of council. You can hear us, okay. I have a couple quick reports on CIP grants tonight. Normally, these two would have come through our Economic Development Committee, but unfortunately, we had to cancel that in February. So as not to delay these moving forward, we voted via email in March. I'm bringing this forward tonight. So the first one is for MS Beauty, Miss Beauty. If you've been downtown Hairston, you would have noticed a relocation from 1 Elora Street to 6 Elora Street. Akash and Manisha purchased this building late 2022 and have transformed the inside and the outside. They have a new sign and a new facade. The pricing is there. The signage was $4,210.94, which qualifies for the maximum grant of $1,000. And the facade work was $6,015. And again, that would qualify for the maximum matching funding of $3,000. These are our first grants for 2023. So would still leave $66,000 in the soon to be approved budget. So yeah, our recommendation, like I said, it was approved unanimously through email by the committee, and they're proposing that these grants be approved.
Thank you, Belinda. So a recommendation tonight is moved by Deputy Mayor Anderson, seconded by Councillor Zimmerman. The Council of the Town of Minto receives report ECDEV 2023-07 regarding signage grant number H29 for $1,000 and a facade grant of number H25 for $3,000, hashtag, for 6th Elora Street, Hairston, and approves these grants. And it certainly is different, front of that building. So they've really changed it. Any questions for Belinda on this? Hearing none, I'm going to call the question. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you very much. And Belinda, we'll move into the next one.
Yep, this
Signage
one's,
grant for Elora Street Flowers.
yeah, another simple one here. Same reasoning why this is coming forward this way. The cost of the sign on the side, it's a perpendicular sign that says flowers, identifying what they sell there, which is a good thing. And the cost was $678 plus tax. So she qualifies for matching of $339. Again, leaving a good chunk of change in the budget.
The recommendation is moved by Councillor Gunson, seconded by Councillor Dirksen, that the Council of the Town of Minto receives report ECDEV 2023-008 regarding signage grant #H30 Elora Street Flowers for $339 and approves this grant. Questions? All in favor of this motion? That's carried. Thank you. Thank you very much. The next one then has to do with the extension request on the multi-shelter solutions, ECDEV 2023-009. Belinda, go
Yeah.
ahead, please.
So last year around this time, we closed on the sale in the Palmerston Industrial Park to Multi-Shelter Solutions. And as you know, we have our development covenants. They have 1 year to get a building permit. Unfortunately, that deadline was last week, March 16th. Norm did reach out requesting an extension. His email is attached there. I'm happy to say he submitted his site plan documents today, as we suspected. We have full confidence that the project's moving forward, and 10% performance deposit will be collected. And once he moves forward to the building permit, then that will be refunded. So we're saying a 6 months extension because he needs to go through site plan first to get approval for the building permit. But staff is in support of granting this extension.
Questions? First of all, recommendation moved by Deputy Mayor Anderson, seconded by Councillor Zimmerman. The Council of the Town of Minto receives report ECDEV 2023-009 regarding the Development Covenant Extension, 1649618 Ontario Inc., Multi-Shelter Solutions, and approves a 6-month extension to September 16th, 2023. Questions? All in favor of the motion? That's carried. Thank you very much. So I'm going to pass the chair to Councillor Gunson, Public Works Chair.
Thank you, Mayor Turton. So, few tonight. So we're going to start off with the drinking water system annual and summary reports, and Mike Doucette's going to talk about that.
Thank you, Councillor Gunson. So tonight I'm here to present our 2022 annual and summary reports per ministry regulations. On February 27th, 2023, our annual reports were made available on the town's website for public viewing, so they've been completed. Also, by the end of this month, March 31st, we have to present the summary reports, which is what I'm here to do today. So I always like to start out with the good stuff. Last year, we scored 100% on all of our ministry drinking water system inspections. During some required chemical sampling for all of our drinking water systems, we did incur some sodium adverse results for Clifford, Palmerston, and Middle Pines, and an arsenic adverse for Clifford. But after resampling, the adverse for arsenic in Clifford was within acceptable limits. Due to the sodium adverses and elevated levels that we received this year, the public health unit and the ministry required us to post a notice to the town's website detailing the elevated sodium levels and what some information related to people on some sodium reduced diets or whatever that way. So our levels were high, but compared to the rest of Ontario, were not that terribly high, but they were exceeded the 20 milligrams per liter limit. Other than that, there were no other organic, inorganic, lead, or any other chemical exceedances with this past year's sampling. And Clifford wells continue to be sampled on a quarterly basis due to the arsenic levels exceeding half of the maximum acceptable concentration of 10. And if there's any questions, I'm here to take them.
Thanks, Mike. I'll read the recommendation. Moved by Councillor Dirksen, seconded by Mayor Turton. The Council of the Town of Minto receives report PW 2023-009 regarding the 2022 drinking water system annual and summary reports. The council approved the 2022 drinking water system annual and summary reports, including Clifford Drinking Water System, Harrison Drinking Water System, Palmerston Drinking Water System, and Minto Pines Subdivision Drinking Water System, and that individual members of council, the interim CAOs, and clerks sign the respective reports as stewards of the water infrastructure. Is there any questions for Mike?
I think Mayor Turton wants you to read that again.
He's fine, you can read it.
I'm fine, thank you.
See no questions. Is that all in favor? Thank you, that's passed. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Next, 2022 Source Water Protection Annual Report, and Kyle Davis is here to report that.
Thank you, Councillor Gunson. Pleased to be here today to report on the 2022 activities for the Source Water Protection annual. Oh, is it not? Was green? Green? It's working? Okay. Pleased to be here to report on the 2022 activities for source water protection for the town of Minto. First of all, we deliver source water protection in the County of Wellington through shared service, Wellington Source Water Protection. So we have a team of 3 based out of Center Wellington, and we cover the entire county. And pleased to report that the reports that are required to be submitted to the conservation authorities by February 1st of every year were submitted for the town of Minto. So that is for the Maitland Valley as well as the Saugeen. In 2022, the report outlines a number of the activities. Broadly, the areas that we work in, we review certain planning and building applications that are within the wellhead protection areas and work very closely with Terry and his staff. We negotiate risk management plans, which are plans to ensure chemical handling, fuel handling, and winter maintenance are conducted in ways that will reduce risks to groundwater and to the municipal wells. And I'm pleased to announce we have 15 risk management plans negotiated and in place in the town of Minto. Actually, sorry, 16. There's one signed just in January. So there is one remaining. We have passed the deadline for that. However, we have been in discussions with that property owner and hope to reach an agreement on that RMP very soon. We conduct inspections, and we also are involved with technical and policy projects. So council may remember that there have been previous reports in the last year about Saugeen, updates to the Saugeen Valley and updates to the Maitland Valley source protection plans. Saugeen Valley, I'm pleased to announce, was approved by the Minister of Environment. Those amendments were approved in November, and that includes strengthening protection around our municipal wells in terms of winter maintenance and salt application. So that we'll be working on that with Todd and his team in terms of implementing those changes. Maitland just finished public consultation and will be going to the province for approval at some point in 2023. Last but not least, education, something that's near and dear to my heart. We work very closely with a partnership across the county, but also with Waterloo Region and the City of Guelph to deliver not only our own programs, but also the Waterloo Wellington Children's Groundwater Festival. This is a festival that educates for the last 25 years, about 5,000 elementary students every year over a week. Up until 2019, it has been held in Waterloo Region, and I'm pleased to announce that this year in 2023, I know technically this is not a 2022 activity, but in 2023 it'll be held in June at Guelph Lake. And moving it into Wellington County we've seen a corresponding increase in the schools that are registered from the county, including here in the town of Minto. And last but not least, the septic inspection program will be starting again in 2023. There are 5 properties within the town of Minto that require these inspections. These inspections are conducted by your building department, and we work in conjunction across the county to deliver the entire program. And there's 775 across the county that are delivered and inspected. Please take any questions.
Thanks, Kyle. I'll read the recommendation. Moved by Councillor Elliott, second by Deputy Mayor Anderson. The Council of the Town of Minto receives the 2022 Source Water Protection Annual Report information. Any questions for Kyle?
I have one here, yeah. Where are the 5 septic systems located?
Yes, through the chair, primarily in Minto Pines.
Minto Pines, that's what I thought.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Turton.
Thank you, Chair. That was my question as well. 775 in the county, 5 in Minto. That's what you said.
That is correct. Through the chair, that 5 in Minto, 775 across the county. Yes.
Wow. Yeah, I just, I mean, we listened to you at Fergus there a few months back for an orientation. It was from what we could hear from you, there was a group closer to you between us, between our table and you, and they were loud, so I'm surprised you didn't tell them to be quiet, but it was a good presentation. It was very interesting, especially yours, because source water protection is extremely important. So,
Thank you
thank
very
you.
much, Mayor.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Thank you. Thank you, Kyle.
Thank you very much.
Next, various tender results.
Thank you, Chair Gunson. The first report from me tonight is various tender results. So we have the maintenance gravel and our dust suppressant tenders, annual tenders, as well as our annual resurfacing asphalt tender. So before you, the dust suppressant tender, we only did receive the one tender at the time of closing with the company that has historically provided this service for us, submitting once again with an increase of roughly $55 over last year, primarily due to the fuel surcharges seen over the last season. The second tender was our maintenance gravel, with once again only one tender received at the time of closing, with a slight increase over last year's pricing, and staff is confident with both these numbers presented. With the asphalt resurfacing tender, we did receive 3 bids at the time of closing, with EC King Contracting being the low bid, which is essentially the Murray Group. They're operating underneath a mother company name, sort of, for this year for internal purposes. Yeah, just with these 3 tenders, they're all as part of the operating and capital budgets, hopefully being adopted this evening. Is there any questions?
Thanks, Mike. I'll read the recommendation. Moved by Mayor Turton, second by Councillor Zimmerman. The Council of the Town of Minto receives report PW 2023-011 regarding the various tender results. Tender 2023-02, Tender 2023-03, and Tender 2023-04. Any questions for Mike? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Thank you, that is passed. Last one, Mike. Backhoe loader unit tender results.
This is actually a carryover tender from 2022 capital budget. The last one just for myself to clean up. So this year we actually received 3 tender bids at the time of closing from John Deere, Case, and JCB. Very close with the results. 3 very comparable units. The price included, or the price presented here includes the tractor itself, clam, front bucket, a specified snow pusher blade, and a 5-year, 4,000 full machine warranty on the machine, with Strongco Limited Partnership having the low bid on this one. And with all 3 pieces being relatively comparable with their own individual nuances that specific to that piece of equipment. Based on price alone, it's kind of hard to go outside of that one there. So if there's any questions.
Thanks, Mike. So the recommendation is moved by Councillor Dirksen, seconded by Councillor Elliott, that Council of the Town of Minto receives report PW 2023-011 regarding RFT 2023-05 backhoe loader unit tender results, and further that Council approves the purchase of the Case 580 SN-WT unit, including the options listed from Strongco Limited Partnership for the price of $219,171, excluding HST. Any questions for Mike? Councillor Elliott.
Backhoes, we got 1 or 2 now?
There's 2. Yeah.
2.
Yeah.
So are we going to have 3, or are you eliminating 1, or? How's that happen?
We are actually going to try to utilize our oldest one up in Clifford, just to cut down on some of the wear and tear. And if it becomes to be too much of a maintenance issue, then we can eliminate that from the fleet. Not really an additional one, just hopefully we can keep a lower maintenance item up there. Yeah.
Thanks.
Mayor Turton.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So Strongco, where will we be serviced out of?
We will be serviced out of, I want to say Brampton, if I remember right. But they do have mobile units that will come to our facility.
Could be a mobile unit sitting in Minto somewhere.
There very well could be,
Yeah.
very close.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions? See none? I'll call for the vote. All in favor? That is passed. Thank you. Now I'm going to pass the chair to Councillor Dirksen.
Thank you, Councillor Gunson. Okay, we have a couple items on the agenda. We'll pass it to our treasurer, Gordon Duff, to bring his report, please.
Yes. Thank you, Chair Dirksen. So this is formally bringing forth our budget, which has been.
Thanks, Kyle.
Yep, hi,
Thanks
Kyle.
for coming.
And our budget has been before council on several occasions in the last couple of months now. And it is basically unchanged from our operating discussion, our capital discussion, and our budget open house. It's basically, as discussed earlier, I guess the highlights, what everyone wants to know, we're still at that 4.88% levy. We haven't changed anything there. Nothing legislative wise or anything has come down to change anything. We'll see Thursday if we're happy or sad, but that's going with what we know so far. As I say, we've had a few discussions and not too much. As you know, we all have our wish list, and it has been, severely cut back to what we can do. And we've emphasized that our infrastructure deficit, unfortunately, is growing this year because we just don't have the resources to do all the projects. And I read we're not alone. In fact, I don't think there's any municipality in Ontario that is doing everything that they would like. But we think it's a reasonable blend of taking care of the priorities and still being fiscally responsible. So again, it's the capital budget is still the same at $4,112,500. And we do have basically just two large capital grants, and those are the ongoing ones under the OCIF program and the federal gas tax, which is now called the Building Canada Fund, but it's still that. And again, you kind of see where the money's coming from. So just on the timetable, usually the county gathers all the levy increases from the lower tiers, and they'll be discussing their policies. We have a treasurers meeting this month. They'll make those ones such as tax ratios and things like that. And then we're in a position to do our tax rating bylaw once we know the final results of how the classes are going to change. And that might be late April, but I have a feeling just the way the month is, it's probably going to be early May before the county's able to pass its bylaw, and then we'll do that quickly after. So basically, you've seen the slides before, but happy to take any questions or anything you've thought of.
Okay, are there any questions for our treasurer? Mayor Turton.
Thank you, Chair. I mean, it's not a question. We've been over these numerous times, and I know how hard that our Treasury has worked on this, and all of our staff have brought numbers to you, and we believe that the 4.88 is a good number, and we appreciate your help on it. Basically, when do we start on next year's?
Well, I hear some of you are going to the Good Roads Convention and doing some delegations, so we'll do that. And yeah, I want to thank all the department heads too for cooperating, and we're all trying to work the same goal, and all the departments could do with more money for sure.
So I guess my point was, last year with the election, we were a little slow getting going.
That's right.
Likely in 2023, 24 will be
Yeah,
back to normal, a
We'll be
little bit
back.
more normal, so.
pre-Christmas for at least one of them, and yeah, so
But
we won't
thank
be
you.
having this discussion
for
maybe
your
a few
hard work.
weeks earlier.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you.
Okay, are there any other questions? Okay, seeing none, so we have one report, and so we're going to split the recommendations up. So the first recommendation is moved by Councillor Gunson and seconded by Councillor Zimmerman. The Council of the Town of Minto receives report Finance 2023-005 regarding 2023 operating and capital budget adoption, and that the 2023 current budget for the Town of Minto, excluding the compensation portion of Public Works winter control as presented on January 17th, 2023, be approved. Is everyone in favor? Yes, thank you, that carries, and I will pass the chair back to the mayor.
Okay, so gonna assume the chair and the recommendation, excuse me 1 second, we have a declaration of pecuniary interest, so that's the reason I'm having it passed back to myself here. A recommendation is moved by Councillor Zimmerman, seconded by Councillor Elliott, that the 2023 current budget for the compensation portion of the Public Works winter control as presented on January 17th, 2023 be approved. Is there anything that you want to add, Gord, other than what you've already said?
No, pretty much that's it, and
Yep.
I realize why you're
Yep,
splitting it into
okay.
two.
So everybody understands, all in favor of that motion? That is carried. Thank you very much, and Councillor Dirksen can reassume the chair.
Thank you, Mayor Turton. Okay, so the third recommendation is moved by Mayor Turton and seconded by Deputy Mayor Anderson, that the 2023 capital budget for the Town of Minto as presented on February 21st, 2023 be approved, that staff be directed to carry forward the 2.9% cost of living adjustment that was not included in the 2023 operating budget to the 2024 operating budget for consideration during budget deliberations, and the Council of the Town of Minto considers passage of the related bylaw in open session. Are there any questions about that portion? Seeing none, call the question. All in favor? Thank you, that carries, and I'll pass the chair
Thank you.
back to the mayor.
Okay, thank you. We're into the announcements, and we're going to start with Councillor Elliott, and we'll just come around, if you don't mind, Ron.
Yeah, I just have a quick one, and it's more of an information thing that I found out the other day. We have a local athlete that's done very well in the curling program right now. We're into the Scotties and stuff like that. So I'd like to just introduce her to council and to the public. If I could, on behalf, her name is Tara Zimmerlich, and she lives in Palmerston. And Team Zimmerlich recently won gold at the Ontario U21 Women's Provincials March 12th, 2023, and she's a skip. The road to nationals is an expensive journey, and living expenses covered in Ontario, and she's doing that. She's doing fundraisers too, and that's not part of what we're doing here. The team is skipped by a local athlete, Tori Zimmerlich. Tori began her curling experience at the Palmerston Curling Club 9 years ago. Since that first day, she set out of the hack. Her love for the game has been driving force behind her success as a junior curler in Ontario over the years. Tori has developed her skill, searched for like-minded and skilled athletes to aid in bringing her team's success to the province beyond. While attending University of Guelph and working towards a Bachelor of Arts in Science, currently in her third year, Tori has kept up her competitive curling. 2022-23 season achievements. 2023 Canadian Winter Games mixed doubles silver medalist. 2023 Ontario U21 Women's Provincial Champion. U21 Royal Slam 2, second place. 2022 Stu Shells, Bamford Women's Curling, third place. 2023 University of Guelph Curling varsity player. Although Team Zimmerling currently curls out of Navan Curling Club, Tori considers the Palmerston Club her home and has been known to show up at the club to spare for league or practices. Thank you again, she said, for the interest in asking her. I asked her mom to bring this forward to us, and she thanks us for attention that she's going to get towards this. And this just flew under the radar. I had no idea that she was so successful. I knew the girl when she played ball when she was younger, and I guess she was a figure skater, and her friend, a fellow figure skater, said, why don't you try curling? And she fell in love with it. So that's quite amazing that she has all these achievements, and she's going to the nationals in Ottawa. So I just want to bring it forward to everyone that we have a pretty good athlete in our community that, again, doesn't get the coverage that probably she should. That's all.
She possibly might. When she comes back, we could likely have her here for some accolades. So thank you for bringing that to us, Ron. Appreciate it. Ed? No?
I'll stay with a sports theme. So we have two hockey teams qualified for the All-Ontario Championship Tournament coming up in first weekend of April and second weekend of April. So the U11 rep team and the U18 rep team. And I think your boy is on the U18 team, correct? So I wish them luck, and hopefully they can bring home some red hats.
Councillor Dirksen?
I have nothing this evening. Thank you.
Councillor
Nothing from me.
Zimmerman? All right, thank you. I have a couple items, and I should have said this when Jess and Jeff were here, but there is an open house, and we're all invited to tour the Palmerston Grove Hub. And it's, everybody knows where it is. It's at 390 Main Street East, Palmerston, Ontario. Thursday, March the 30th, 2023, 6:30 p.m. to 8 p.m. So, as you heard here tonight, these folks are extremely welcoming, and it's a lovely spot. Our two interim CAOs and myself were over to visit a couple of weeks ago, and the place was full. It was one day, 11 o'clock in the morning, and it was pretty amazing. So it might have helped some people like myself 60 years ago, 50 maybe. So anyways, take note. Everyone is invited. Second item, tomorrow is Ontario's Crossing Guard Appreciation Day. And as you're aware, crossing guards help students develop habits to keep them safe as pedestrians or bicyclists, such as looking both ways before crossing roads, navigating intersections, and using crosswalks. These individuals play a vital role in ensuring students remain safe when arriving at and leaving the school and traversing busy intersections. The town of Minto employs 4 crossing guards who are out there, rain or shine, and working hard to keep our students safe. We ask residents to join us in showing our gratitude to these valued members of our community and to exercise caution while driving in school zones. So I'm going to throw out a challenge that, and I know that Quinn and I are going to be going to the 4 crossing guards and presenting them with some high-vis clothing tomorrow between 3 and 4. But I ask everybody that if you see a crossing guard, maybe stop, holler out the window and thank them, because I haven't heard of any incidences in Minto, people crossing the road that have had any issues with our crossing guards, and so they must be doing a bang-up job. So just want to let them know how much we appreciate them, and I know it's, I mean, when you look at them, you're in the truck or the car with your heater on, and there they are, standing out there, working hard and never complaining. So we should thank them. So, okay. Resolution time then. Deputy Mayor Anderson moved, seconded by Councillor Gunson, that the committee of the whole convene into regular council. All in favor of that? That's carried. Thank you. Notices of motion. Anything in that category? All right, hearing none. Resolution moved by Councillor Elliott, seconded by Councillor Zimmerman, that the Council of the Town of Minto ratifies the motion made in committee of the whole. All in favor of that? That's carried. Thank you. Bylaws. Moved by Deputy Mayor Anderson, seconded by Councillor Gunson, that bylaws 2023-019 through 2023-023 be read a first, second, and third time and passed in open council and sealed with the seal of the corporation. All in favor of that motion? That's carried. Thank you. And the confirmatory, moved by Councillor Dirksen, seconded by Councillor Elliott, that bylaw 2023-024 to confirm actions of the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Minto respecting a meeting held March 21st, 2023, be read a first, second, third, and passed in open council, sealed with the seal of the corporation. All in favor of that motion? That's carried. Thank you. Adjournment. Before we adjourn, I'd like to thank Quinn for sitting here. It's usually Annaleen, but Annaleen and Mr. Harrow are on a well-deserved vacation down south. I hope they're,
Together?
sorry? Not together. I don't think they're together. Yeah, they're not together.
Okay, good.
I think
Checking.
one's a little further south than the other, so I hope they're sipping on a toddy right now. So adjournment,
No.
resolution moved by Councillor Zimmerman, seconded by Deputy Mayor Anderson, that the Council of the Town of Minto adjourns to meet again at the call of the mayor. All in favor of that motion? So that's carried. Thank you. In the room over there, we all need to get out our pen and do a signature for to support Mike and our water group. Right, Quinn? Anything else?
That's it.
Okay, thank you very much.